All right, welcome everybody. We are Modern Man back in the saddle. Back in the saddle
That song?
again. It is Luke Combs, man. I'm still in that country music train. That's a
Ah,
terrible cover, but Back in the Saddle is one of his songs. It's out right now. That's doing pretty well. So it's a good one.
Buckeye Country Superfest was recently, and
Did you go to that? Is that Western Ohio or where's that at?
I didn't. It's at
the shoe.
Oh, it's at the
But,
shoe.
but I didn't go. But I did hear fun news that I'll keep it a surprise. Our guest for our podcast next month, that will be released mid-month in mid-July. Our guest there actually was backstage with the Red Clay Strays and got to spend some time. And this special guest has some theological knowledge, and apparently the Red Clay Strays just keep him around and drill him with questions constantly. So,
Wow.
that's
Pretty
so
cool.
he had VIP backstage, and he's become good friends with the band. So,
Nice.
anyways,
I'm definitely thinking of the Freedom Fest. That's the one, the redneck one out in Western Ohio, where there's all sorts of stuff.
It's called Country Concert. It's in Fort Laramie.
Yeah, that's the one. That's the one.
Yeah,
I've heard stories about
nice.
that place. Well, anyway, guys, welcome back to Modern Man. We are hitting the AAR episode, which is the After Action Report. Now, if you remember from last time in some of our previous episodes, we're talking about AAR. After Action Report is a military term that stands for After Action Report, and really kind of has three key components to it. So when a military operation goes on and the troops come back, there's a debrief that occurs, and it focuses around three different things. One is what was supposed to happen. Two, what actually happened. And three, what can we learn? And so really, these are situated in such a good way because we go through about a month's worth of content and then get the opportunity to kind of look in the rearview mirror, see things again. I don't know about you guys, but what I oftentimes do is I'm kind of a psycho. Like I definitely take the same attitude that I would have if I would have played sports at a really high level of watching film. I do that with most of my talks, most of my podcasts, most of anytime that I get an opportunity to speak and it's recorded, I play it back. I listen to it and I get the opportunity to one, be kind of a student of what other people were saying, but also myself, and then try to better myself. So that's something that, kind of in a practical sense, we want to do here during the episodes is be able to go through kind of some bite-sized, 3 different episodes. And then after the end of those 3 episode little series there, we're going to take an opportunity to just kind of take a step back, look at what happened, what was supposed to happen, what actually happened, and what can we learn from the situation. So looking into the last month, we hit 3 different episodes, one of which was about really kind of focused on the idea of character, right? We called this one kind of in short, the fallen giants, right? It's that idea Brad had talked about of having that reminder at 10 p.m., seeing it come across the dial on his phone of remember the fallen giants, those people that have gone before us that whether it's a Christian faith, whether it's a Catholic faith, whether it's some sort of, business tycoon, that's someone who amassed amounts of influence or power or prestige or something in their life that whatever that was actually superseded the character foundation under it. And so the cracking happens, right? So the fallen giants was one. Another one was one on leadership, one about how do we cast a vision for our life? How do we follow through with that vision in our life? And then third, we actually had a long form podcast with Dominic Schluter, a good friend of the three of us, and someone who actually has embodied both of those kind of core ideas from those episodes really well of being a man of character, but also being a man who casts a vision, and not only casts a vision for his life, but follows through on his life. An incredible young man that I definitely look up to, even though he is about 10 years younger than me. But basically wanted to be able to just kind of, that's what happened. That's what we covered in the last month. And then when you think about that, like what actually happened in that, there was some different moments of, strife, disagreement, some stuff that happened in the midst of the three of us that I kind of wanted to bring to the forefront. So particularly, I think around that episode with Dominic, and I think it's a good place to kind of start and kick our conversation off because of the nature of it embodying kind of all the ideas from the last month. But one of those things that I just wanted to bring up was because I took a pretty hard take with, if you guys remember, got into the food stamps argument. Which, what a place to go!
What a place!
What a place to start!
What an argument to be had!
And so it's one of those ones where, on Saturday, Whitney and I are driving up to Twin Lakes, where my parents and my in-laws have a cabins at. We're driving up, and I'm listening to the podcast, kind of doing it on 1.5 speed, trying to get all the the juice from the episode out. And I started to listen to myself during that take of basically my take was, if a man is following his dream or the desires that God has placed in his life, and it puts him in a position where he is on food stamps or not be able to financially provide for his family, like he's not a failure of a man. And I think after kind of listening to myself, kind of critically thinking about the episode, I actually think I would take that take back and say, I actually don't know if he's a complete failure, but I do think he is failing in an arena of his life. I think there's an area of a man's life of wholeness, if you will, that is not being lived up to its full potential. So I don't know. I think just to kind of enter us in, like, what actually happened, that was one of the things that I observed that I'm like, okay, that's what happened. I don't know that I really would stand by what I said in the episode. So I guess I'm curious what you guys think about particularly that take, or if there was anything else during the episodes that you felt like you want to bring up from the episodes.
Yeah, I love that conversation. I was actually just looking back at some text, because it's funny how, like, when you have a conversation that's dynamic like that you start wrestling with things in real time, texting people what you think about it, how it begins shaping your view of things. I have been thinking about that kind of a concept as well, of like, what does it mean to provide? And I've had kind of a little bit different than you, Sam. I've almost had like a doubling down of, I think that what I was trying to express in that episode, I still kind of stand by, which is just this idea that, like, I think we have to create a place for people to begin, like a place for people to start, because you like, without an ability to start, wherever you end up, obviously can't be attained. And I was thinking, like, why was I arguing so strongly that I think, we have to create a bandwidth to not declare that someone's failing in the moment, even if they're not where they desire to be or know they want to be. And I think that my simple take on it is, I think, could be laid out like this. A not now is not a failure. A not ever is a failure. So like if it's someone that is like pursuing their passion and not providing for those around them because all they're doing is focusing on themselves, I think that's a problem. But I think if it's something where the person's like, I think right now is the time to strike while the iron's hot, or to risk, and my family's discerning it with me, and we're like, let's just take a leap of faith together. If that requires some figuring it out along the way, or even like government assistance like food stamps or whatever, like, you take the most extreme situation, I just think I want to create a place for people to be able to start, and not a place where by starting they're by necessity failing. Does that make sense? So anyway, that's been what's been spinning in my mind. I think it's a really awesome conversation. That's why I love Modern Man too, though, is because, yeah, we intended going into that conversation to talk a lot about, like, how do you find success in podcasting? How do you find success in life? And we ended up talking about how do you provide as a man. So those are the kind of conversations that get you thinking and bringing it into your life. So I've wrestled with it some too, but that's where at least I'm at right now.
I think, so I can't remember if Dom said this. I was with him on this weekend, and we were working out a little bit together, and then did the good old sauna cold plunge steam room. So that was fun.
Whoa!
But
did you go to Sweat House? Where is that at?
At Lifetime
Lifetime. Ooh, Lifetime
spot. So he has a membership there, and he gave me that free guest pass. So it was nice.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was amazing. But so I can't remember if we were talking about it, or if I was listening to the podcast as I was going there. So I can't tell which one. But one of the statements that was made was this idea that I've been reflecting on a lot. One of the statements he made was something to the degree of, if you are taking any outside help, then I think you're a bad provider. Something like that. You guys remember that, or is that when I was hanging out with him?
That might have been when you were hanging out with him, because I think I would have punched him. Like, I think that goes, and I think it probably goes against
I think I
every
would have punched
facet
him.
that goes against every aspect of missionary work. It's like, right? I mean, wouldn't it? I think I would have taken a pretty hard stance on that if you had said, if you depend on anybody else and there's no free lunch. Like, at some point, I don't know. Everyone
Yeah,
depends on somebody, right?
it
So
might
it's
have.
like, there's that idea.
Yeah, I don't want to mischaracterize him. I think he was saying something to the degree of like, if you're taking external money from a source that you didn't necessarily create, and I think he was being liberal with that statement, like saying like, if you're a missionary and you raise funds to be a missionary, he wasn't saying that that was wrong.
Sure. Okay.
But I think it was this idea of like, if you have to take help from an external like the government, then that is failing to be a provider. And I think
Mhm.
I've been reflecting on that, and I'm like, I don't buy it. I think I'm like, no, the reality is the people that I know who are uber successful or working really hard to attain it are people who are like moving in with their parents, and not to be lazy, but to save money so that they can be able to do what they're doing and build a business. And that's not easy either. Like, there's a sacrifice there. And I think maybe to not mischaracterize him, I think his point is kind of like, if you have the capacity to be able to do it within your financial means, then and you choose a different route, but you still could do it by yourself, then you're okay. But I just think, I don't know. I've been reflecting a lot on this concept of like what we're born into versus what we what we're born into versus what other people are born into. And I think some people have harder paths than others. I think some people have easier paths than others. But I think what I've come what I think I've realized is, I think we're all getting a certain amount of help. And I think we're all, whether it's the fact that like we have a parent who can house us, that alone, like I think we give people who are on government assistance a bad rap sometimes, because I think we assume that they had every opportunity that we've had and they
Yeah.
choose that. And I just think like, wow, the fact that right now, if I foreclosed on my house, I can move in with my mom and be okay. I think that's pretty significant. And I think if we don't take that seriously and say, hey, we're blessed with a lot of backstops, and we don't call it government assistance, is like the fact that, and I say all this to his face, so like we're good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The fact that Dom had podcast equipment and could get on YouTube and record the way he was doing it was because he had a father who had a background in that, and that's not insignificant. And so I think the point I'm trying to make, I've jumped to a lot of different things. I think the point I'm trying to make is this: we all receive help and assistance in some way, and to define one as bad and others as good, I think there's probably some truth within that. But at the same time, I think I think we're all just coming from different places and our opportunities are different. And if you can use government assistance to capitalize to build something big, I think
No, I think, isn't that the same rub that you had with like bad guys, good guys? I think that that's like just a consistent theme in your life where you're trying to find this balance of not like overly schematizing things, you know?
Yeah, well,
But
I think what I'm realizing in my life right now is that frame is everything. Like, we come with such a frame, and if we ever claim that we don't, we're lying. And I think that I've been really trying to, in every argument, and Brad would know this big time because we're constantly in arguments with in another chat about a lot of things within the church. And I think what I'm always trying to pull out is, hold on, let's not make an assumption because you are coming in with so many different thoughts. Let's not make an assumption that all of these things are in the order that they should be because that's the way you think. And I think I've just been challenging myself with that a lot. Like, I was blessed to be born into an amazing family that has a lot of things. And so for me to be able to say, well, government assistance is this horrible thing, is coming from a frame that I had what I needed and that my parents worked hard for it. And to assume that everyone who's on government assistance did something to deserve that is not fair. And
yeah,
so I think
yeah,
I've just been really wrestling, like, letting
Yeah.
the paper presuppose a frame.
I do think that, that's very important to keep in mind. I do think there's a reality, and I don't know, I'm curious what you guys think about it because we didn't really acknowledge it, but like, Brad, I believe it was in that episode with Dominic. If it wasn't that, it was a different one because things blend together. But there's the idea of, I think you spoke to being versus becoming, right? So there's that idea of holiness is not one where you certainly arrive. Our life is not something where we sometimes someday arrive at perfection. To be human is to be someone who constantly evolves, constantly is in the state of becoming, right? And so when we look at our life through the lens of story, through the lens of kind of a chapter, right? There's kind of like, okay, Sam had to fight hard in this moment. Like I think about one of the things I told my mom when I was the summer of my junior year of college. I was kind of faced with a decision of, do I enroll for basically kind of take a light load or kind of like a moderate load my senior year, and then just kind of come to terms with the fact that I would have to take another semester, that I wouldn't be able to graduate at the end of May, but I would have to graduate in December of the following year. And for me at that point, I had kind of like already had Damascus in my mind. I'm like, okay, I know this is what I want to do post graduation. I was pretty sold on the idea. I also knew that like if I had to wait one more year, it was going to put me back a year. And not only put me back a year, but put me back like basically where I'd be half a year graduated and be like, okay, what am I supposed to do from there? And I was, faced with a hard decision of, okay, do you kind of just take a moderately easy road of taking like 17 to 18 credits, or do I max it out and load up and take 21 credits and then 23 in the spring? And my mom kind of looked at me like I was crazy because I did. I said, I'm like, okay, I'm going to take 21 credits in the fall, 23 credits in the spring, and I'm going to try to graduate. I'm going to graduate with getting all 44 credits in one year. And my mom was kind of like, are you sure you want to do that? And I said, I looked at her, and this is a moment that I bring this to mind and kind of tell that roundabout story for a specific reason, because it's one that I look at as kind of like a pivotal moment in my life of a decision that I made, where I looked at my mom. It was in my garage, my parents' garage in Iowa, and I said, my life is never going to get any easier. Like I said, okay, if I choose this road and I just kind of skate by for the next year and a half, like, sure, am I going to have a little bit more of a college experience? Am I going to be able to like enjoy life a little bit more? Am I going to have to grind to graduate by spring? And the answer is yes. But I said, my life is never going to get easier. And it's amazing because I look through the hard moments in life, times as a missionary, times as a young married man who had just freshly got married, knew nothing about finance, was literally between my wife and I was making about $1,200 a month. Like not much at all. Like it was, I mean, we had like a super cheap rent. We were living in kind of a dump, and it had like $50,000 worth of student loans. And it was in that moment where I looked back and I said, wait, my life is never going to get any easier. If I grind now, I'm going to set myself up, my family better. Right. So put my nose to the grindstone, worked harder, gave myself a raise. And then even having children, like, okay, one child, oh, my life is never going to get any easier. Second child, life's never going to get easier. And I find myself now where there's become kind of this mantra of, okay, the hard you're going through right now, like it may be hard, but you can handle it, right? And it's always unto something later on, right? This isn't the end of the story if you're in a hard situation. And so I guess the reason I bring that up, and it's kind of long-winded, is just the importance of seeing things in the part of a process, right? So to your point, Brad, I do agree that if a man, if it's like it's only a failure if that's the forever state. I do think though, and I hope I don't sound like I'm contradicting myself. I do think I kind of want to speak to the reality that I think there is a point at which if someone's like you're failing in a current state of your life, or that's not a bad thing, because that doesn't mean you're a failure, right? When you think about your life, like there's a multiplicity of ways in which you are as a human person, right? So you may be failing financially, but you might be excelling or very whole spiritually or emotionally or friendship wise. Like to think about your life kind of as like the like a pie chart, if you will. Like when you're excelling in one area, you're exhibiting more wholeness. But when you are not, like it could be fair to say I'm failing in this area. I guess that's what I wanted to say is like, I don't think to label a man as not financially secure in a moment or for a season, I'm okay saying he's failing in that area of life. I guess I'm curious what you think about
that. Here's why I wrestle with that. And I actually love a lot of what you said, Sam. If Dominic did reference that Pope Pius article, but basically the point that he was making was you are failing as a provider, that implies wrongdoing. And if we're okay with um if we're okay with a wrongdoing occurring, then what we're communicating is, okay, I am willing to partake in wrongdoing for the ultimate good at the end, which would mean that the ends justify the means, which I don't believe in, especially in the church. Like, I don't believe that's true, and so that's why I'm like, I do actually believe that it's right to take a major sacrifice to the point of what could be food stamps at a certain period of time in order to succeed later. And that's why I don't like this statement of saying, okay, it's a failure if that happens, because then what you're communicating is there's wrongdoing that's occurred, and this wrong is going to going to be a mean that is justified in the end, if that makes sense.
That actually could be a key to unlock something, because I was agreeing with most of what you were saying too, Sam. I think you had mentioned like I don't want to paraphrase, but I think you said like failing financially.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that I would necessarily disagree with that. I just think failing financially and failing in provision are two different things. Like I think a father owes his family the opportunity to become all that it's made to be, just as much as he owes his family temporary satiation or like not even excess, but like surplus. Does that make sense? Like I think that the wrestle that I keep coming into is like, man, what does it mean to be a provider, and how much of being a provider is in this moment now, and how much of being a provider is investing in this moment now so that the provision that they're ultimately unto becomes more and more possible. Like I think true provision is about ultimate good, not like immediate fulfillment.
Mm-hmm.
Although I'm not saying, and this is where I think I mean, like Dominic's heart, we all love Dom. And I think that all of us are on this train. We can't stand laziness. I can't stand laziness. Like if you're lazy, like I'm out on you. Like you need to get in the game and you need to do hard things. I'm also out on selfishness. So at the end of the day, if you're not lazy, but you're working really hard, but you're working really hard for the thing that you want, and it's at the detriment of your family without a forward facing goal that actually elevates all of those in your family. I mean, I think I'm out on all that. I'm just really wrestling with this. I think actually I was in a text with you guys where I was wrestling this idea out. It's this difference between potential energy and kinetic energy. Like kinetic energy, like the things happening right now, love it. But there are seasons where I think we're called to a potential energy where we're actually storing up that which is then in motion later and becomes even more effective. And again, it's just wrestling it all out.
No, for sure. I think it's just hard because it's assuming that most people that are in that state are going to get out of it. And I just think like,
interesting. Sure.
That's the thing that's difficult. I'm not trying to like, I don't know. There are men that I can think of that have worked jobs that they would say is kind of their dream career, but it makes basically they're trying to live as a single income family on like $35,000 a year, and it doesn't work. And I think if someone holds out in their mind as like, I'm doing this because it's my dream and it's what my passion is, and it's like at a certain point, your family just has to become your passion. Like you have to be able to.
It's a good word.
You have to give up your. It's like Paul talks about, right? I gave up childish ways. I gave up childish thinking, and it's like I'm all for fully alive, like being fully alive in what you do. I think to your point though, as there's sometimes a season for kind of that potential energy, it's like there's also a season just to like sack up and do the hard thing. So if you need to go sell insurance and become a salesman to make your family $100,000 instead of $25,000 or $35,000, then maybe you need to do that and put your family first instead of saying my dreams, my passions are more important than my family. Because I think there is a reality at like, what man is actually going to get out of that if he doesn't like, I think at least most women that I know aren't going to like, slap their husband across the face and say, I need you to change your job. Like maybe, I don't know, but I guess there's for me, that's a wrestle. I think additionally though, like failure can be motivating. Like it doesn't, I think speaking to two guys who are very high achieving, like I think sometimes you guys are a little allergic to the word failure. Like failure doesn't mean like you are a failure. It's not an identity statement. It doesn't mean like you're like a complete nothing. It means like if you're failing at something, it takes humility to say, I'm failing at this. And then where can you go? You can go nowhere else but up. Why do we love the movie Cinderella Man? It's because James Braddock was failing. He was absolutely failing as a father. He was failing as a husband in the realm of financial provision, right? Providing for his family. And then later on, after, like, why'd you get in the ring? He's getting interviewed. What changed? Milk, right? Putting bread on the table, putting milk on the table. There was a sense of coming face to face with his financial failure, like his failure to be able to provide financially for his family, albeit in the midst of the Great Depression. But he took it upon himself to do whatever it took. Maybe he didn't want to get back in the ring. Maybe he didn't want to fight with a broken hand. Maybe he didn't want to have to look his wife in the eyes and tell her, I'm doing exactly what you don't want me to do because I need to provide. Like, I just think that that's, to me, that's kind of the wrestle a little bit, is like, failure is not equal to you're a nothing or you have zero dignity. It means you have nowhere else to go but up. And it can be actually an incredibly motivating factor in your life to actually do the thing that people are depending on you for.
Yeah, I like that. No, I like that frame a lot. I really do. I think the fundamental wrestle I'm having is with provision and what it means to be a provider. And I think that that's big. I mean, again, I understand financial is a part of that, but it's just, you guys have heard me get passionate about this. This actually reminds me a little bit about the leadership episode that we had as well. But I've just been reflecting on, Noah, you have a little one coming soon. Actually, when this releases, you might have a little one in the world. But I just like I've been like just so in love with Eliza recently. Like, love being around her. Really hard for me to be away from her. I'm just like absorbing all of the moments there. And one of the things that I've been really considering is, what does it mean to really be a father to a daughter, or just a father in general? And what does it mean to provide? And one of the things, so as we record this, it's on a day where I'm at Damascus pretty late because we're in summer camp mode. And it's a hard day for me because I leave early and I get back after she's asleep, you know? And I've been really reflecting on, like, man, I miss her on these particular long days. Like, I miss her a lot. I want to be with her. And I was thinking about that. And I think I'm going to try to play this out as an analogy. It might not be perfect, Sam, but I think it can give like a heart of where I'm coming from. It's like, I understand that as a father, I'm called to provide presence for my daughter. You know what I mean? Like I know the majority of the time, my presence is one of the best things I can provide for her. I also think that I deserve to provide for her the opportunity to see her dad bleed for something he believes in, you know, and that requires, because I live in time and space, it requires a trade-off. And so there are days where, like, hey, I'm not actually home with you, babe, but I want to welcome you into the fact that, like, hey, Dad is at Jesus's house and he's going to talk to some people about him tonight. Mm-hmm. And just like welcoming her into, like, if there's one thing I want you to know, Eliza, it's how much I love you. And if you know how much I love you, then you know that anything I'm doing that would have me away from you has to really matter. And now all of a sudden, like, I think provision, again, not just in the financial sense, but kind of in this grander sense, it starts taking on this both and of, like, yeah, I know I'm called to be present. And I think if someone really pressed me, like, Brad, should you be present to your daughter every day? I think it'd be a hard question, because I'd be like, yeah, I mean, like, in a certain sense, yeah. But, like, there are going to be some days where, like, even my heart longs to be present in a different way right now. But again, I understand what you're saying when it comes to let's allow failing. Yeah,
for sure. And I don't like say that. I don't think you're depriving your daughter of anything right now. Like, I mean, I had to go cut bedtime short tonight because we had a podcast, and, you know, I was up early and out of the house this morning, and will be for the next week to 2 weeks, because I'm hosting the morning show.
And why are you host? Like, there's something in that, right? Like, that's not just a you thing. You're not just doing that because Sam wants to do a ministry thing.
No, I know.
Like,
I guess
there's an impulse behind it.
Or I guess where I was going with that, Brad, is like this. I don't think you're depriving your daughter of anything by speaking at camp tonight.
Yeah.
Or not being there for that. I would, however, push you pretty hard if you were traveling every weekend as a Catholic speaker. And I know those people exist. Good. I know those people are out there and they think they're doing good for the church, and they have horrible relationships with their children. They're failing as a father to provide emotional stability, physical stability for their, and I don't like, I'm not going to call anybody out by name, but that's a reality.
It's just a reality.
No, well, I'm not going to condemn anybody or judge anybody, but I do think, like, that's a non-judgmental observation. That I know that there are people out there that are basically preachers' kids because dad's out there saving the world. That's not what you're doing, though. So I guess, like, I do agree with you, but I don't, like,
to an extent.
Like, hear what I'm saying now. What I'm not, like, I'm not saying that you're not doing a hard thing and that you're not missing Eliza and that she's not missing you right now. But I, like, when you say bleeding for something, I'm like, yeah, but you're probably there like 6 of the other 7 nights of the week, right? So there's something there of like, I guess I just don't think that's like, that's not even, to me, that's nowhere close to food stamps. Like, and I'm not trying to, I guess, if someone's in a prolonged season of like literally a year, 2 years, 3 years, no birthday presents, no Christmas presents, no cake on their birthday, like you're failing. Like, I think why? Because, and not only that, but you're making your family unhappy. I mean, I can't quote things verbatim, but I know that as we were designing some of our course material for Forge, we have all these different video courses. So if you're interested in checking them out, you can go to myforge.org/courses. We've got ones on fatherhood and upon raising sons and upon making your home a place of a home church. But one of the things that we actually talked about in one of those video courses, we did a research, kind of culminated all this research studies and research from different psychologists to kind of pinpoint where does happiness lie within the context of money. And basically, because of all the different facets of like where you live, you could live in the Northeast, you could live on the West Coast, you could live in the Midwest. You can't pinpoint necessarily a dollar amount of where does like enough money make someone happy and where does too much money make someone unhappy. But essentially it rests within this, that actually money does equate to happiness. Like there is a threshold at which when a family has enough money to be able to allow a spouse to not have to work, to be able to provide meaningful experiences for their children, and to be able to provide for their family financially, whatever. And again, there's a lot of leeway, there's some vagueness there, but like, if that means that I get my kids to go to Catholic school, they get to play sports, they're not denied the opportunity to play sports, we get to go on a vacation every year. Like, I think like at a certain threshold, it's not like past that threshold that people become unhappy, but it doesn't gain much more beyond that point. When you provide for your family's needs, when you're able to give meaningful experiences, and when you're able to essentially provide for your family, whatever that kind of number means. So I guess what I'm trying to say is like money does make people happy, and it certainly makes life easier. So I don't want to take our whole episode time on that, but that's kind of like my last thought without kind of politicking here on the whole situation. But I do think I want to take a step back because I think I rested on my sense of like, oh, just embrace poverty. It's like you're holy, but it's like, you know what? No, I'm a recipient of like a pretty comfortable middle class life. And if I was like having to depend on government assistance for years on years and not being able to provide for my children, would it give me dependence on God? Sure. But I don't know that I would be a good father or a good husband.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, and we're going to have Dom on for another part too, which is going to be a lot of fun. I think more than anything else, I still think the question that needs to be answered is failing as a provider implies wrongdoing. And if and to be fair to Dom, he is not agreeing with the statement. But if we are okay with saying that there can be a period of time in which you're on food stamps, let's say, in order to provide for your family so that you can accomplish something great. If you do accomplish that great thing, then what you're saying is that ends justify means. And I think that's the piece that I wrestle with. And that's why I can't say, because I do believe that that's okay. And that's why I can't say that.
I just feel like I'm not trying to push you guys into a corner here, either of you, but no, like that is, the ends justifying the means is used in like a moral, like that that is like a theological statement used in the context of like moral evil. Like, I'm not talking about moral evil here. I'm talking about like, and nor do I think it's like necessarily a moral failing. I think it's an inability to rise to the standard of what a man is called. So like, I just don't think it's like a fair statement to say the ends don't justify the means to like, cause I think you've got to provide for your family. It's in the nature of being a husband, of being a father. Like and part of that is we live in a temporal world with temporal needs. Like if you get your car taken away, repossessed, you lose your house, all that stuff. We live in a world where we live in a nation, if you're in America, of the land with the most opportunity at all. Like you could become a sales rep for anything. And if you work hard enough, you can make enough money off commission. I think like, I don't know. And this could be an agree to disagree thing.
Material. Well, no, I think it might be in certain ways, but the thing that I'm starting to wrestle with is just like, how do we wrestle with the materialistic side of it? You know, like I don't, it's hard for me sometimes because provision in my mind, like if all of us closed our eyes and if we asked those listening to close their eyes and think of what it would look like for them as a man to be a provider, I think we would typically think of material success. We would typically think of um, I think we would think of things like the experiences and things you were talking about, Sam. I need to check out those resources because I think that's a really interesting kind of frame. But it's interesting to me because I'm really wrestling in my own life with like how much of my life should be spent in pursuing as much as I can, like economically to make an impact versus how much of like an economic security is good for my family if I'm making a different kind of impact. Does that make sense? It becomes this kind of like wrestle for me of like to the degree of I don't actually know if that's making any sense, but there's a materialistic side of this that I really wrestle with and I don't know how to get my hands around. Like how much of provision is material provision. I think that we've been using the food stamp example, which I think is an extreme. And I think a lot of the people listening will totally love like the thought experiment of that. But I think where it gets really to the nitty gritty with me is sometimes I want more money because I want more stuff. And sometimes I want more stuff because I want people to think I'm successful. And
Yeah.
sometimes I want people to think I'm successful so they think that I'm a man that's worth following. And that's a detrimental slide for me as a man. And I know those sides of my weakness. But anyway, I don't know if I'm making any sense, but the materialistic side, I think, is a part of this that is a good rub to wrestle with.
Yeah, I think again, I'm excited for this opportunity to have a part two
Yeah.
with because I think it'll
Can
bring out a lot of these points. But I think in general, if I had to have one takeaway, it's what I said earlier. It's this reality that I I walk away from this. And again, the funny thing with all of this is that this isn't something the three of us wrestle with, right? Like we deeply um all want to provide and believe and like don't want to ever leave a moment where we're not. And so it's a funny thing because we're kind of even Brad and I are kind of advocating for somebody we aren't. And so I think in general that whole reality is funny. I think I want to be a man that is constantly providing. And but I also want to be a man that if I see and if I feel and I want to be careful here, if I feel that God is calling me to do something radical, that I would say yes to it if it meant that down the road I would be able to actualize something great. So provision is the end. Then I do believe that I can take a season of um, if you know, God forbid, we needed to be on food stamps for a certain period of time so that we could so I could put more money into the business so that I could escalate the thing that I feel called that I'm really supposed to do, then I do believe that is actually okay. And I think long story short, I think the fact of the matter is we are all receiving provision and I am a little allergic to this idea of a certain provision not being okay for a certain period of time, but others being okay. So, and I think that's the piece that I've taken out of all of this is like, wow, in my frame, I bring into conversations. I think I am much quicker to just assume things that are on my mind that I actually shouldn't assume. I should actually challenge where I'm getting my beliefs from, and actually question if I've actually partaken in some of the things that I've been saying are wrong and just in a different light. And that's the piece that I've been wrestling with a ton.
Yeah, it's fun. It's funny because I was thinking about this as we started the episode, like just trying to think back to the episodes we've been doing, and talking about remembering the fallen giants. It was really interesting the examples that we were using because I think this. I'll pose that as a question to you, Sam. I think one of the things that it's been on my mind with like the material side, even if we take provision out of it, but we could kind of try to bring it together if we wanted to is it's interesting to me that the fallen giants, like from an external perspective, could be seen as amazing providers, at least materially or financially, or like with what their families able to do. And I wonder, like, if you were mentioning there might be, again, there's some nuance there, but there might be a point at which you become such a provider that you forget that God's actually the ultimate provider. You didn't
Mhm.
say it like that, but it's just, it is an interesting wrestle. I just think it is because the fallen giants, typically these are men that have achieved great success, great status, great prosperity, great
Mhm.
whatever. and they've lost sight of the underpinning of that. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's a question.
It's a good question. And I think like where my mind goes is again, it's like, where do we define success, right? Where do we define even a giant? Like, I guess some people may look at some of those men we've talked about in the context of those episodes and be really inspired by them. To me, I'm not. Like, I look at a couple of those guys that we've talked about that have fallen, and it was even prior to like any sort of scandal that came out about him. I wasn't impressed. Like, I don't think there was a single one of those guys that I'm like, yeah, your family life must be freaking awesome. Like, your kids must adore you. Like, your grandkids must love spending all the time with you. No, it's because you probably have like a crazy speaking career that you're on the road 300 days a year. Like, I just don't think, I guess when I think about success, and this is where I've had to even do kind of some soul searching, because I think if you would ask Sam for the last 10 years, Sam, do you want to be like, you want to be a Catholic speaker? Do you want to travel the world and go speak at these conferences and go speak at all these retreats and parishes? And I think where I'm at now, it's like, you know what, if I could have the same amount of success as a podcaster or as basically doing the same type of contribution to the world through the spoken word here in my house and down literally 3 minutes down the road at the Catholic radio station, I would take that, because it doesn't demand me to be away from my family. Right. And I guess what I'm trying to say is like, when we can define what success looks like and to truly ask the Lord, like Solomon, like if God could give you anything, what would you ask for? I'd ask wisdom. Like, God, give me wisdom to be able to discern my life, to see my life, to say, okay, where is the line? Like when that line is drawn of like, enough is too much, right? Or, I don't need more than this, or like, this is where my needs are met. And beyond that, like, some of my wants have been met, but like, it becomes a fruitless game. We've talked about this, I think, even in this episode with Dom, where it's like, okay, you start to say, I want $1 million. And then as soon as you get $1 million, it's like, okay, I want 15 million, or I want like $1.5 million. Okay. Once you get 1.5, now it's like, okay, I want $2 million. And I mean, it's like the book on my shelf over here. It's like the fulfillment of all desire, right? Every one of us can see that we have a God-shaped hole in our heart, that no matter how much you fill it with whatever you want, there's always going to be asking for more of it. And that's why I think it's so critically important. And I beat this drum before in the podcast. And it's kind of why I've kind of like even talked about the financial provision side of things as a sliver of your life. It's not your whole life. So if you're failing, and I'm fine saying that, if you're currently failing or struggling to provide financially, but you are excelling emotionally with your children, or you're excelling relationally, or you're able to give a good contribution for the thing that you're even taking a sacrifice for financially right now, I think that it doesn't mean you're a complete failure, but it does mean like, okay, I'm going to design my life. We've talked about this before, Brad. You mentioned in the last podcast, living life by design, not by default. So if I'm just going to live life by default to my situations and my circumstances, whatever goes on around me, if that doesn't match up with the vision that I've created for my life, then you're just going to constantly fall short. So I guess, I don't know, it's hard because a lot of these kind of ethereal, very like vague concepts mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people. And I suppose for me personally, that's where I get just super specific about, like, it does me no good at all to dream about having a different house right now at all. I could die in this house. Like I'm living right now in a dream home. Like I live in a 5-bedroom, 3-bath home, 2,000 square feet. I don't need more than this house, right? Like this is a dream I used to live in like a 600 square foot, 1-bedroom, like crappy brick house that probably had mold in it. You paid like $700 a month in rent. I could never have dreamed of having this house. And now I have it. And it's like, it doesn't do me any good to let my heart wander to like, well, what if I had like a 50 acre farm, you know? Well, it's like, that's it. Why?
Yeah,
like my needs have been met. My kids are having meaningful experiences. So I guess that's where like, I have to be very specific about, I mean, I'm serious. We went to a lake house this weekend. I drove a jet ski. We were on a boat rides. I took my kids golfing. Like they're having a freaking awesome life. Like I don't need more than what is going on in my life right now. And so for me to sit there and be like, I think anything else is vain. Like that's where I guess I'm just sitting here. Like, I don't need to make $200,000 a year. We're doing great. You know, like, anyway, I guess that's kind of a little bit
diagram. Well, no. You're inspiring me because I think you were saying like the ethereal conversation. I completely agree with it. One of the ways I think we could concretize it is when you were saying that, I think that like our life's a Venn diagram, right? Like we have these 3 circles that are overlapping. One is like economic or financial provision, like the money that we make. The other is the time that we have. And the final one is the meaning we have in our life. And as men, that is a really hard Venn diagram to get right. And we need to treat it with really reverent respect. Is like, how much of my life is the time that I can give to friends and family, namely my spouse, and then my children, and then the men closest to me in my life, and then so on and so forth, out and out and out it goes, because we only have a finite amount of time. And then how much money do I need to make to make life meaningful and provide and allow my kids to have the experiences they were made to have? And then how much meaning do I need in my life? Because we're even mentioning, like, if you're doing something that's super meaningful for you, but you're not providing it all for your family, and you're gone all the time because you're like, these three circles, like, I think there's a huge benefit in discerning our life through that Venn diagram and trying to figure out, how can I get that center space to actually be where most of my time is spent, where I'm figuring out the right kind of rhythm of like presence, the right rhythm with provision, and the right rhythm with purpose. And that creates kind of a meaningful examination for my life, I think.
Yeah, no, I love it. I think that's really good. I think that that is the wrestle that we have to answer, and I think that we have to figure out. I think more than anything else, I was reflecting on this a little bit today. This all, like, pen has to hit paper, right? Our feet have to hit the ground, and we have to start pounding the pavement and figure out how do we actually do it. And I think that's still where the wrestle is, because if we could summarize every podcast we do, it's like, you have to hear God and obey God. That's what every one of our podcasts could always come to. And I think what I enjoy about these episodes is we want to get down to the nitty gritty and say, okay, this is all great in theory. What do we actually do? And I think that's the piece that we have disagreement on. And ultimately it is because we all are going in different directions.
And I freaking, yeah.
But
and I love that about that. Cause like, quite frankly, this is not a prescriptive podcast, right? We're not sitting here diagnosing things and saying, this is what you've got to do, gents. Like,
we're the experts.
I mean, I have talked ad nauseum that I hate those guys. Like, I can't stand listening to dudes online that are talking heads just telling me this is what you got to do.
Here's how you should live your life.
Yeah, screw it. So what I am interested in, though, is thought-provoking conversations where we wrestle ideas out together and then inspire people to think about their life differently. And so when we think about the context of this episode, after action report, three things: what was supposed to happen, what actually happened, and what can we learn? And I think, basically, 40 of the 47 minutes we've been talking has really kind of focused around this idea of what does it mean to provide. And I think, Noah, to your point there, kind of the end, like, pen has to hit paper. Like, we have to, you can't, if you're listening to this, you can't just sit there and say, oh, that was a good episode, and just go on with your day. I want this to haunt you. Like, I want this question to haunt you. And if you, whoever, the three of us, like, we're all kind of talking different things right now, like, whatever sticks with you, like, let it be something to really kind of be kind of, thought provoking for you, and to design your life that way. I mean, I think whether you think I'm an idiot for saying someone's failing and they're great, prove me wrong. Like, if you think these other guys are wrong, then great. I don't know. Like, there's something to that, of being able to really put pen to paper, think about the critical question. So I guess this question of what can we learn, as we wrap it up, one of the things we talked about, kind of reintroducing just kind of a personal conviction, is kind of that principal objective, right? So PO. And I think maybe it'd be a cool way to close this AR episode if we could just think about, maybe the three of us, what's one thing, what's that principal objective, one thing that comes kind of from the conversation. You're like, okay, you know what? Over the next week, 2 weeks, this is kind of what I'm going to focus in on, and just kind of a personal conviction from the time. Does that sound fair? Anything anything come to you guys?
I have one right away. I was thinking about this when we were prepping for the episode. Nina is wanting to kind of like scale back with work and be at home a little bit more with Eliza. And as we've been wrestling out provision, and even this last month of episodes has just allowed me to take some things to prayer. And I'm pretty committed to getting us to a financial place where her stepping back at work actually doesn't take away from how we can provide for the family. So that requires me to fill in the gap of whatever the time she's stepping back is. And I'm excited to get kind of creative there and figure out what that looks like. But that's going to be my principal objective, is how do I actually allow our budget to still be our budget, even as she takes some time some more time at home instead of at the workplace, which will be a cool thing to figure out with the Lord and to get my hands dirty and shoulders sore doing.
Good on you, Brad. Love it. No, you got one?
Yeah, I would say, I mean, I'm coming into a really new season here and I'm excited. Again, by the time this airs, I will have had a child, which is exciting, most likely. And so,
Come on.
in all of that, I think that's just going to be a whole new understanding of what it means to provide. I think at this point, similar to Brad, my wife has been a full time employee and no reason not to. We didn't have any kids. And so at this point, we will have a little bit of a scale back. My wife's going to go kind of towards working, doing some contract work all from home. And I need to look back and say, okay, this is a new budget. What is this going to look like? Where is what going? You know, where are things going, and where are things coming in, and then yeah, make some decisions from there to really um, to really look at that. But I don't want to make this just a budget thing. Like I think that's stupid. It's not like let's go look at our budgets. But I think it's more like it's the Venn diagram Brad was talking about, like presence, provision, and what was the third one again? It was
Purpose.
and purpose. Yeah. So where do those meet? Am I currently reflected? Like, can I take a time of reflection and say I'm executing those well, and really go from there and say, okay, wow, are these three things lining up? Is there a middle point, and am I actually achieving that middle point, or am I being lazy? And the crux of all of this, whether Dom wants to admit it or not, is is that we have to, as men, do what's hard for the sake of the other. And if we do what's hard for the sake of the other and give our everything for the sake of the other, then we know we'll achieve success, whether that's amounts in a certain dollar amount or whether that just amounts in those around us being affected in a very, very impactful way. And I think that's what I need to take out of this and make sure that in that Venn diagram, I'm in the middle, which is I'm laying down my life fully for the other.
Love it. I think similarly to Noah, have you guys ever heard of, I believe it's called the life retreat or like life,
I don't know if I
life
have.
planning thing? We know there's a couple of people you guys would know that
yes.
do this. It's like, I think there's some sort of ministry leaders that created this content where it's like a 1 or 2 day or 3 day thing.
I'm seeing it now. Sorry.
Yeah, like it's like a life planning thing. So I guess, Whitney and I are just kind of like landing the plane on a pretty significant transition in our life. Me leaving a job that I had held for close to 10 years, moving away from a community of friends and family, or not family, moving from community and friends to really our community of family, and being in a new home and starting a new job, all those sorts of things. So we've been kind of like, I think both of us would confess, we've probably been in survival mode a little bit over the last 4.5, 5 months. And we talked about this the other day of, our family is kind of to the point at a place of stability where we could have all three of our kids go to one of our parents for a weekend and allow us to kind of go spend some time together and to really go through that life retreat content together, but then also just to kind of spend some quality time together. So I think one of the things I'm going to do from this conversation, because I think if you don't think about your life, you're just guiding your life like a fool. Like you have to be able to think critically about your life. Noah's point, hear God and then obey God. I really think that I want to lead my wife in a way in the next week or two where we decide a time, decide some dates in the next month to 2 months where we're going to take some time to go do that life retreat, just content, go somewhere and spend a good quality weekend together. And I think that's going to help us have a lens of gratitude for what we do have. And then also see where is there lens for improvement to be able to be more whole in all the arenas of our life. So with that, an incredible conversation tonight. Really grateful for you guys. I do think sometimes, there's importance to rehashing the content that we get. Cause I think sometimes if you're like us, there can be, you're riding the high of the emotions. You're saying things sometimes you don't mean because you want to get a point in. And the conversations are great, but to be able to take a step back and look at the whole month and do these after action reports are critically important. So anyway, I really think that as we jump into the next month of content, I'm super excited to see where our mind space is at, especially given the place that we've been. So with that, this is Modern Man. We're so grateful that you joined us wherever you get your podcasts from. We exist to rediscover and redeem the heart of man. Thanks for joining us.